So essentially Mercedes-Benz, for its 100th anniversary of the Maybach, is coming out with the S680. And so this vehicle is going to be the top of the line when it comes to the Maybach. Of course, they have other sports cars which are similar in this range, so I wouldn't say it is necessarily the most expensive Mercedes-Benz vehicle, but it definitely ranks up there. I was always curious to see how this vehicle matches up with the Rolls Royce Ghost, as far as which is the best chauffeur car, talking about luxury, talking about specs and all of that. So I did a little bit of research of my own, and this is what I found out. So I'll start with the boring stuff, the specs of these vehicles. And I say boring, not necessarily because these cars aren't insanely powerful, but mainly because I feel like if you're buying a Maybach or a Rolls Royce Ghost, you care somewhat about the specs of it, but more so you care about the ride of it. Because again, this is going to be a chauffeur's car, so it's very unlikely that you yourself would be driving this if you were to own one. So in the case of the Maybach, we're likely to be getting a V12 engine with 6 liters or more as far as the displacement of the engine. The specific engine specs will be coming out a little bit later on, so we know it's either going to match its predecessor or they're probably going to beef it up, which is more likely. And I guess for reference, the prior model of this Maybach gave us a 6-liter V12 that gave 621 horsepower from a twin turbo engine. And so if we were to compare that to the Rolls Royce Ghost, on the other hand, we're getting a 6.7 liter displacement, so a little bit bigger for the Ghost. However, we will still be getting a V12 engine, and for the power, it's going to only be 503 horsepower. So again, a little bit less powerful than the Maybach. However, it has all-wheel drive, and it has more or less 50-50 distribution between the front end of the vehicle and the rear end of the vehicle, which balances out the ride a lot better. And lastly, the price, which for me is where I think the Maybach wins by a landslide, because again, going off the predecessor for the Maybach cost $173,000. So again, for this S63 that's coming out soon, it's likely to be, again, from 173 to maybe the low $200,000 range. And then comparatively, the Ghost costs $314,000. So assuming this Maybach costs, let's say 200K, you're adding on about 100K extra for the Ghost. But maybe there's some features that this Ghost has that the Mercedes-Benz Maybach doesn't. So let's see if that's actually the case. So we'll start off with some of the features that make this S680 as special as it is. Starting off, we know that there are going to be a lot of bespoke, a lot of customized parts that you wouldn't find, for example, in a regular S-Class that you're going to be finding in this 100th year anniversary version. Additionally, this S680 has a longer wheelbase than the regular S-Class, meaning that there's going to be much more legroom and much more space in the rear for you to essentially lift up the seats and essentially sprawl out, if you please. And speaking of the rear seats in this vehicle, you're going to be able to heat the seats, you're going to be able to cool the seats, and you have a massage feature as well. In addition to that, you have folding tables, and there's a space where you can place your glasses. So if you were to have a full-on meal while getting a nice massage, that would probably be the best place to sit in the car. And lastly, as far as the sound, if you care about music or you care about listening to the news or something of that sort, you get 26 high-quality speakers that are essentially going to give you the optimal quality of sound. And so now comparing that to the Ghost, on the other hand, some of the nice features that the Ghost has is the fact that you have handcrafted wood trims in the vehicle, of course along with handmade leather parts. Additionally, you get a massage option in the back. As far as the heating and cooling, that's not entirely certain in the Ghost. So if that is the case that it does not have heating and cooling, that already gives the Maybach a bit of a heads up on the Ghost. However, the Ghost does make up for it by having a Wi-Fi hotspot. Legroom wise, it also gives you ample legroom in the rear. And as far as the speaker system, you only get 18 speakers, but again, still pretty high quality. Granted, a little bit less than the Maybach. Oh, and last but not least, of course, the starlit sky that you get in the vehicle. So it essentially looks, if you were to take a picture, it would look as if you are right under the stars. And lastly, for the downside of both of these vehicles, starting with the Maybach yet again, we're going to be seeing a vehicle that has some pretty bad blind spots. But again, hey, if you're sitting in the back of the vehicle, all you want to do is just kick back, relax, sip some champagne, and enjoy yourself. And fingers crossed, your driver is a good enough driver where he's going to be able to get you around without you ending up in an accident. Another potential downside, at least going off the previous model, is the fact that the brakes feel rather soft. So it feels like it takes a little bit more for you to brake. And moving over to the Ghost, some of the downsides are the trunk space, because, I mean, I guess you could get in a few bags, but it's not really as big as that of the Maybach. And additionally, the car isn't really much fun to drive unless you're actually being chauffeured in it. So again, if we're talking about the better chauffeur vehicle, I feel like there's so many different variables that some people might find more interesting or more desirable than others. So let me know in the comments below which of these vehicles you find more desirable. Of course, as the S680 gets closer to its actual launch date, I'll probably make a follow-up video depending on if you guys desire one. So let me know in the comments below if you do want a follow-up video on this, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.